Welcome back, everyone. A special thank you to METV that is here, and they're in the house. Woo! Woo! Diana is coming up to give us our guest, but I do want to let you all know Tom Fox, our good friend from Kalamazoo. Tom, where are you? There you are. Everyone, be sure to say a temporary goodbye to Tom. He says he has very much helped. Enjoyed helping our Florida economy during this season. But he would also is inviting us to come up to Michigan to help his economy in the summer. So try to reciprocate, would we? And Tom, you're coming back to us in December, right? You bet. All right, very good.
I've been asked by the foundation to announce that we are now have available RFP requests for proposals for investment advisory services for the foundation. The foundation has done very well over the last many years. However, it's been 14 years since we've opened up the investment advisor position, so we felt like it was our fiduciary duty to periodically basically send out proposals. So I have some of the RFPs with me today, but after this, then Terry Roberts has them available, and you can email her or call her, and then she has those available to you. So just to announce that. So today I have about 10 of them available for anybody that wants them. So.
Brian Chambers has an announcement to make, our community service chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see so many of you. I have our sign-up sheets for Better Manatee Day, and there are less names on here than there are people in the room. So I'm going to pass them out. Mac, do you mind just passing them to one of the tables there? I even found pens that work for you, so no excuses. Better Manatee Day is this Saturday, so this is your last opportunity to make it your plan to show up there. We're doing service projects at two great locations this year, PACE, Center for Girls, and Hope Family Services. And we've had Angie talked to us about Hope and all of the things that they do there, so you should all be well aware of that. And PACE is a great part of our community, and the things that they do for the girls that need the special attention that they're able to give them at the school there. At Hope, we're going to be working inside. At PACE, we're going to be working outside. So again, there's no excuses, okay? We have plenty to do. At PACE, we're going to be moving a lot of mulch. At Hope, we're going to be doing painting. So we also need support people that are just there for support, that might be able to help us get the right tools to the right people, make sure people have water. There's something for you to do, I promise. No excuses, okay? For those of you that have the equipment, we do need some wheelbarrows. We could use pitchforks. It'll make moving the mulch a lot easier. We have enough painting equipment. We have the paint brushes and things like that. But for those that have tools, we would really appreciate if you could bring those. Some of you have contacted me and said, hey, we can't do it, we're out of town. That's fine, I understand. But I am going to be sending out another email blast. So if you've already talked to me, I don't need another email from you. I understand. I will put in the email the address where we're going to be meeting in order to go to Hope. Hope is a little reserved with giving out their address for their shelter, understandably. So we're going to meet at the new DHSMV office next to the bus stop, next to the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, near the mall. Okay, so I'm going to put that address out there. We're going to meet there and then head over for PACE. I'll put the address of PACE where we're going to be meeting. Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay, so we're going to pass the sheets around. Everyone can sign up, and we'll see you all on Saturday. Thank you all so much. Everyone has been a big support so far. Thank you.
And Lisa Morrison is here with an announcement as well. I don't need a microphone.
I don't either, but you're making me.
I'm making you come up. I'm making you come up.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you again. I am here to pitch for Every Child a Reader. It's coming up the last week of April, April 23rd through 27th. A lot of new faces in here, so you may not be familiar with it. It's an opportunity to promote early literacy as well as family engagement. So you read a book that's already been purchased and ordered and purchased. And you read the book to 3- and 4-year-olds in their classroom, and then you give a book to each child so they can take it home and continue reading with their families. You schedule your time, your date, with the classroom teacher, so it works for your schedule. So I'm going to pass around some sign-up sheets. You can put your name, contact information on here, and then your preference in the county. If you want to go West Bradenton, put that on there, Lakewood Ranch, South County, Palmetto, wherever you want to go, put it on here. And then Anna Maria over at the Early Learning Coalition is going to match you up with a location. If you already know where you want to go, I have that sheet also that's color-coded by location, and we can go ahead and sign you up at a specific site. So please sign up as soon as possible so we can fill these slots and see if we need to go after additional classrooms, because we have a little bit more room as far as the number of books that we've purchased. So again, it's April 23rd through 27th. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Finally, let's talk about parties. March 23rd, unless you're living under a rock, you know that it is our 95th anniversary. We're having a huge party blowout right here at the hall. RSVPs have been rolling in. It's going to be quite an event. Plated dinner, hors d'oeuvres, drink tickets, dancing dinner and dancing. The singer is a finalist from American Idol. He is phenomenal. Best deal in town. Enjoy the fellowship with your fellow members. The decor is going to be out of this world. Yes, there will be dessert. With that, I am going to have Brett Pollock, who is fresh in from the Amazon. I'm not kidding. And he is going to introduce our speaker.
I came back just for Better Manatee Day. All right, our speaker today is Dave Hutchinson. He is the executive director of the Sarasota-Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization. His multidisciplinary transportation specialist background spans over 35 years and combines planning, policy, and public affairs. Over this period, he has served in key positions at or with the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council, the Florida Department of Transportation, Tweed Advertising, Grand County, Utah, San Diego County, and the San Diego Convention and Tourist Bureau. Dave moved to Florida in 2000. He and his wife, Lupe, have 2 grown children who reside in Sarasota and in Gainesville. I had the opportunity to meet Dave when he came to Manatee County with the what was the name of that? It was, Community Traffic Safety Team, which now they host at their place, and with the Chamber's Transportation Subcommittee. Would you please welcome Dave Hutchinson.
Yes, I am. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Brent, and it's good to see some of my classmates from Leadership Manatee and those who have also participated with the Chamber's leadership program in other ways or with the Transportation Committee at the Chamber. Also, I see one of my bosses here, Commissioner Betsy Benak, and a former boss, Commissioner Bussell. So I would recognize them. They probably know all this stuff. I'm going to give you a, let's see here if I get the right button. There we go. Kind of an overview of the MPO today, what the MPO is, and some of you have heard some of this before. Hopefully you'll all hear something new, and a little bit about how you can be involved in the transportation planning process. In the early 1900s, there really wasn't a lot of local and state involvement that involved a process. There was some federal money that went to the states that was geared to supporting the rural areas. Of course, most of the country was rural at the time. They were providing funding for some of the farm-to-market roads that helped get our country going, and eventually improving some of the country roads so that cars, which were becoming popular, could make a better way around the country. There was no federal funding for city streets. Later on, things changed. The nation determined that an interstate highway system would be helpful for providing for the defense of the country, and an initial program to build a 40,000-mile system came into being with the interstate highway program was born. And in the 1950s, they started setting aside a certain portion of gasoline taxes for the Highway Trust Fund and spreading some of that money around. Along the way, we had the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. Both of these federal legislative actions did affect and influence the development of transportation in the country. In the 1950s, with the interstate highway system, there were urban areas that weren't sure. You know, people woke up and said, "What's going on?" And there was a bulldozer out back, and they would call their mayor, who would call the congressman, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're putting the highway through. Didn't you know?" And they didn't know sometimes, and it wasn't always done in a cooperative manner with the local jurisdiction. So in 1973, Congress mandated that areas that were urban would have a metropolitan planning process, and that there would be involvement of the local governments and the citizenry. So through this process, and they set aside a very small portion of the gas tax funds for managing the process. And that's how the MPOs are funded around the country. There are MPOs in all parts of the nation wherever there's an urbanized area of greater than 50,000. Our urbanized area consists of Sarasota and Manatee counties. Our population is now up around 800,000, and the MPO provides a continuous, comprehensive, and cooperative decision-making forum. We have our two counties, Sarasota and Manatee, 9 cities and towns, the Sarasota-Manatee Airport Authority, representing also the port, the 2 transit agencies, so that all modes of transportation have a seat at the table. Our governing board, which Commissioner Benak sits on, sets the big picture framework, and everything the MPO does operates under the direction of elected officials on the MPO board. And our task is to plan for a safe, efficient, financially feasible, environmentally sensitive, regional, integrated, multimodal transportation system that supports sustainable, livable communities and economic development. So the MPO has our governing board, and we have public involvement at several levels. We have 3 advisory committees. One is a Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee, whose members are appointed annually to serve and recommend on items related to what we would call active transportation, which is bicycle and pedestrian and trails activities or decisions that the MPO is involved in. setting priorities, et cetera. We have a Citizens Advisory Committee that has 28 members from throughout the region, all the way down to Northport and up to Palmetto, and all parts of the region are represented through that citizens process. And each of our jurisdictions appoints planners and engineers, staff members, to serve on a technical advisory committee. And at each one of these meetings and at every MPO governing board meeting, there's an opportunity for the public to be heard on any agenda item or items that aren't on the agenda that might be something that they wish to express concerns about. So lots of public involvement. And our process involves many different things, and I'm not going to go into each one of these, but there's a, you know, it's a mandated process, so we have lots of procedures to follow. Very quickly, I'll go through our Bicycle and Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee that has, we have a Citizens Advisory Committee that I just mentioned, and I guess I already told you some of this, the Technical Advisory Committee. And so there's lots of vetting of ideas that make their way up to the MPO board. Our staff also works on preparing documents, working with the various jurisdictions involved in the process, and engaging consultants as we need to. And our process is all done in accordance with the Florida Sunshine Laws, so that there's public notice of all meetings, and it's conducted in the open. We have 5 core documents, which would be our long-range transportation plan. That's a 40-year look out. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Actually, it's the next 25 years is what that plan covers. It often looks out a little bit further into developing of the information. We set annual priorities. We have a 5-year transportation improvement program called the TIP. We have our Unified Planning Work Program, and that's a 2-year document that's basically our operating budget and talks about the planning documents that we'll be working on. We have a public participation plan that's updated every 3 years or so, and we produce reports such as our congestion management process state of the system report and other reports that come out. The long-range transportation plan is, sort of a big picture, 25-year look into the future, and it basically sets the framework under which or within which the rest of the planning process occurs. We look for, we develop a cost feasible plan. How much money is expected revenue-wise? The state gives us those numbers. It's updated every 5 years. The LRTP, as it's known, has to be consistent with local comprehensive plans, with the state's plans, and throughout the process, what I call a hierarchy of plans, we also look at the economic development plans and the regional economic development plans. We look at we talk to the leaders in tourism promotion, and we try to develop a plan that is consistent with other jurisdictional plans throughout the region. Every year the board adopts project priorities. And these priorities are, again, brought forth by the jurisdictions and then run through vetting, and we work with the Florida Department of Transportation. The MPO prioritizes, and the Florida DOT or FDOT programs. All of the local funds that are collected through sales tax initiatives, et cetera, those priorities are set at the local level, not at the MPO level. And again, we have this 5-year TIP that has to be consistent with the STIP, which is the state's 5-year program. And when we submit our priorities, some of them actually get funded, and then they make it into our TIP. It takes a long time, and I guess most of you probably realize this because you've been hearing about some of these projects that are just now happening for a long time. Occasionally we get lucky and we can get a diverging diamond built in a couple of years. Again, when there's regional consensus, good things can happen. But a concept to concrete can easily take 10 to 15 years for a transportation project, and that's if there's agreement and the funding is available. One of our big issues is funding, The gas tax revenues are not keeping up with the analyzed needs. And so, how do you pay for transportation? And we have a lot of things that are changing. We have technology coming in. Cars are more efficient, so we don't see the gas tax revenues that were anticipated sometimes, which can cause challenges. The latest federal funding legislation was in 2015, and there was a shift, and this goes back even earlier than 2012, where performance-based transportation planning and transportation management was encouraged by the federal government, and now it's required by the federal government. So they want us to be able to demonstrate that the funds that the federal government is allocating to transportation are actually being used to solve real problems, and not just a project that doesn't actually solve a problem or do some good. And they've developed and issued performance measures that we have to follow in these areas: safety, infrastructure condition, congestion reduction, system reliability, freight movement and economic vitality, reduction of project delivery delays, and environmental sustainability. So within that framework, the state and the MPO are in the process of setting performance measures. We've adopted, or the board has set some safety performance targets, and will be setting targets later this year in these other performance measure areas. And one of the things that we try to address is congestion. So how do we do that? How does our planning process do that? We have measures. There's a lot of traffic counters out there. So we know through science where the congestion is today, and we analyze through an approved methodology that takes into account population. So we look at where's population. Our last long-range plan, the base year was 2010. So where are the people living in 2010? By the time that's adopted, it's already 2015. Then our next update will be a 2045 plan. So we'll be projecting out where will people be living in 2045. So then you say, okay, well, where do people work? Where's the growth occurring population-wise? That's out east. You can see that. I guess I won't go back to it. But then we analyze employment as well, and where the employment growth is expected to occur. And you can see that again, the employment growth is going to occur throughout Manatee County. Most of the population growth is going to occur east. So we look at travel patterns, and we can project where congestion would be expected if you didn't build any new facilities beyond what is currently funded. And that tells you where your projected hotspots are going to be 25 years out. So that's the type of information that gets taken into account during the planning process. One of the investments that's been made through this process in our region is the Advanced Traffic Management System. There's a traffic management center that's part of Manatee County's Public Safety Center. It's a regional center that's Sarasota County jurisdictions and the other jurisdictions in Manatee County all participate in. It's operated by Manatee County, and that is making a difference in the flow of traffic on a daily basis. And during an incident where I-75 might be closed, then they actually will change some of the lighting movements and the traffic movements to accommodate that incident. And they've calculated that in a typical incident and over the course of a year, they'll save millions and millions of dollars of how much worse the congestion would have been without the system being in place. So we also look at other mobility options and how they relate to land use. We know that if a bus can take cars off the road, then that's a good thing. And some people don't have vehicles. There's some information on the tables about some of the statistics for Manatee County and the city of Bradenton on how many people just don't even have a vehicle and rely on public transportation. So that is important. And how we develop in the future and how we retrofit existing communities also affects transportation and the flow of traffic. You know, there's a lot of talk now about millennials, and they don't want to drive or might not want to drive. They're more interested in living close to where they work or in living in an urban setting, downtowns. But millennials aren't the only ones that want mobility options and that want to live close to where they work. Our seniors also have some of the very same interests. A big topic in our performance measures and on a daily basis is safety, and Florida and our area was designated as one of the most dangerous places to be a pedestrian. So one of the things that the MPO has done, working with the jurisdictions and FDOT, is work to address this and identify where the safety hot spots are and what can be done about it, and looking at both the engineering and the education and the enforcement solutions that might help make a difference. The county, for example, has adopted a complete streets policy and developed design guidelines that will help make all of the streets safer over the long run. You may or may not like roundabouts, but they are proven to save lives and reduce high-speed crashes, and they are endorsed by the American Association of Retired People and the Federal Highway Administration, the Florida Department of Transportation. So we're going to see more roundabouts, and they will help us make a difference in safety. We have on our website some interactive maps that I would encourage you to visit if you get a chance, and you can actually look and take, again, a snapshot view of what some of the crash data looks like, where the hot spots are. The data that's up there is the 2015 data, which is what was available at the time. Some of the statistics on the fact sheets that are at the tables are covering an average, because the performance measures have to be reported in rolling 5-year averages. So that's how we will be analyzing some of the various targets that get set. What projects do we have in our area? They end up, for the most part, on the state road system, and many of the federal and state funded projects show up in the Florida Department of Transportation 5-year work program. And I am not going to go through each of those projects, but I wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like. It's all available to look at more on our website, and the bottom line is that there's roughly about $400 million over a 5-year period that is being invested in Manatee County through the state and federal government process, and that does include some of the local matching funds. It doesn't include all of the other local projects. We know that in the state of Florida generally, about 25% of the state transportation budget is federal. The rest is all state sources. And you know, in our area, we have a number of our local jurisdictions have been proactive in adopting a sales tax initiative or developing some transportation funding from other sources to help offset the gap. Now, the good news is that some of the studies that we've done are not just going to sit on the shelf. And we, you know, consultants love studies, but elected officials don't. And elected officials don't want studies that are going to sit on a shelf and not result in real projects. So one of our performance measures is project delivery. The Central Manatee Network Alternatives Analysis is a current study that the Florida Department of Transportation is conducting at the request of the MPO, and this has been in the works for a few years, and it was to look at the mobility issues in downtown Bradenton, downtown Palmetto, where there are major delays on a daily basis. And there were a couple of target goals and objectives of the CMNAA, as it's called. And the first one was to look at today, what can be done in the short term to address the congestion issues, and also safety, because we do know that our downtowns tend to be hot spots for safety as well. So the good news is that this team working for FDOT came up with some solutions for addressing the daily congestion. And I said that if you look at the problem, it all centers on 4 intersections at Manatee Avenue and 41, 1st Street, and 6th. And if you could divert some of the traffic, and there's a handout on this at your table so you can take it with you and study it and get to know what your future traffic pattern might look like. If the northbound traffic coming into Bradenton could turn off at 9th instead of going up to 64, and then with the assistance of traffic signals as needed, get onto 64 on 3rd Street West, then this sheet, if implemented, and it's not a done deal, but it's moving along through the process to get some funding and to work out any kinks, that process, these improvements have the potential for reducing the daily traffic when it's worst, the peak season, peak hour delay, by 30+% in the morning and in the evening. So FDOT's very interested in helping our jurisdictions make these improvements, and the Bradenton City Council just voted to support moving forward with further analysis of this proposal. So the MPO will be looking for funding to help FDOT implement this, and we will be working with the jurisdictions to help identify any issues that might need to be resolved before it can move forward. But this is a near-term quick fix that came out of this bigger study that can be implemented during the next 2 years, potentially, 2.5 years. And I think that's really good news. So that's kind of, I'm not just telling you about the problems, I want to tell you that there are solutions being developed. And out of this Central Manatee Network Alternatives analysis are also a whole series of other potential improvements that have been provided for consideration by the jurisdictions to consider prioritizing for either their own funding or funding that they might seek through the MPO and FDOT. And some of them are safety improvements, some of them are corridor improvements, and they can all add up to making a difference and make it safer for people to walk and bicycle in our areas. Another exciting topic that I'm just going to touch on very briefly is trails, recreational and trails that can be used also for transportation. The state has determined that the economic value of developing a statewide trail system is very, very high. And you know, a lot of you have heard about the Pinellas Trail, and currently under construction across the middle of the state is the Coast to Coast Trail. And another high priority trail is going to run up and down the I-95 corridor close to the coast. So in our part of the state, our MPO and our local jurisdictions, working with other neighboring MPOs and the jurisdictions all the way down from Naples and Collier County up into Hillsborough County and clear up to Citrus County, have supported the segments of what is called the Gulf Coast Trail, which is a portion of the trail that will be eligible or is eligible for this Sun Trail funding. And a part of the trail that connects up towards Hillsborough is in the Ellington-Gillette area, and the county has received some funding towards making that trail a reality. The Legacy Trail down in Sarasota is also moving forward and becoming a reality. And if you want to get involved in transportation, I encourage you to visit our website and stay in touch.
I think we have time for 2 quick questions. Yes, Dave.
How's the diverging diamond working out down at the university?
Excellent, excellent. In fact, it just won a national and also a state recognition from some of the engineering and construction companies that build big road projects because it's so successful.
Yes. Yes, you.
Okay, so we have to talk flyover. So that corridor right there is not exactly the, shining spot of our town. And you're talking a $500 million investment for the flyover potentially. I feel like nothing has really happened in that corridor in a long time. I feel like that could be a huge positive for that area. Lighting, sidewalks, getting a lot of the traffic out of that area as well. But I'm not hearing much of that when I read, or when I'm reading much of it when I see the paper, and I'm not hearing much of it when I talk to people. Does the MPO have the ability do they see that as well? Do they have the ability to try to convey that?
Well, when we asked for the Central Manatee Network Alternatives analysis, we asked for some short-term fixes, and we also said, we know we're going to have to replace, that FDOT's going to have to replace the DeSoto Bridge in the next 10 to 12 years. And we said, well, please take a look at that and see if there's a way to get some capacity improvements in conjunction with that bridge replacement. So out of the study did come a proposal to separate some of the regional traffic that's not stopping in downtown Bradenton, not stopping in downtown Palmetto, but is certainly clogging up the transportation network in our region, and to see if we can take them over the river, but then take them a little bit beyond the core downtowns. And that's what is known as the elevated thruway, or it's been called the flyover. That concept is one that is brought forward as an idea that can be incorporated and studied in what is called a project development and environmental study, or the PD&E, and that's not funded for another 5 years. So it'll get looked at that time. And Commissioner Benak. And I just put the website back up for where the Central Manatee Network Alternatives Analysis Study is, and they have information about all of the potential alternatives that will be analyzed.
Thank you so much. Okay, right here. And as a small token of our appreciation, I'd like to bestow upon you the coveted Kiwanis Golden Rule, which I think we can all say we support Mr. Hutchinson and the MPO in coming forward with solutions to always help us make sure we can get where we need to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, we look forward to seeing anyone that can make it for all of our service projects. That's what makes Bradenton Kiwanis one of the greatest clubs in the world. And I, for one, am so appreciative of each and every one of you. My friend, good travels, safe travels, and we look forward to saying Kalamazoo again in December. With that, we are adjourned.